This is an article that I was reading last week, right? Let me see if I can blow this up a little bit so everybody can kind of see this. This was July 23rd, 2021. All right, and it says 3,462 Christians murdered in Nigeria in 2021. It's the biggest killing ground of Christians in the world, which a lot of people don't talk about. A lot of people don't talk about the Christian persecution in African countries like Nigeria. All right, but I'm going to go ahead and read this article because it's really not that long. It says more than 3,000 Christians have been killed in Nigeria this year by Muslim militants amidst a massive wave of persecution that also has resulted in 300 churches being threatened, attacked, or destroyed, according to a new report. So it's dangerous for people in Nigeria to go to church. You know, very, very dangerous. And we're talking about just going to church. We're not talking about, we're not talking about people who just call themselves Christians or people who are doing something. It's just going to church. Just going to church could be the end of your life in Nigeria. The report by the International Society for Civil Liberties and Rule of Law says that 3,462 Christians have been killed by Muslim militants in the first half of 2021. A shocking number that is nearly as many as the 3,530 killed in all of 2020. So right now, 3,462 Christians have been killed so far in Nigeria versus 3,500 in a total year of 2020. And we're only about 8 months into this year. So we still got about 4 months left. And already the numbers, you know, it seemed like it's going to exceed that from last year. International Christian Concerns cited the report this week and urged the world to take notice. Nigeria is the biggest killing ground of Christians today, but few are aware of it, ICC said in a July 19th news release. The Fulani herdsmen, described as the fourth deadliest terror group in the world by ICC, is responsible for the majority, 1,909 members of the report says. Boko Haram, ISWAP, and Muslim Fulani bandits killed a total of 1,063 Christians, the report added. Christian farming villages are repeatedly attacked in Nigeria's Middle Belt region, and tens of thousands have died over the last 20 years. That is a lot of people just for being Christian. In addition, hundreds of thousands of Christians have lost everything and are living as refugees, ICC said. The surviving victims are not assisted or protected by the government from further harm, the report says. So these people are basically on their own. Government is not even stepping in to stop this. They're just letting it happen. But this is not just Nigeria. This is happening in other countries. But just like the government isn't stepping in here, what makes us think that our government is going to step in and help us reconcile race in our church? They're not. So that's why we can't afford to rip each other apart over race. That's why I speak so hard against the whole critical race, the whole critical race theory thing. You know, thanks for the super chat, Rashard. Let's continue. It says it is deeply saddening that till date, those responsible for the anti-Christian butcheries in the country have continued to evade justice and remain unchecked, untracked, uninvestigated, and untried, leading to impunity and repeat atrocity, the report says. The surviving victims and families of the dead victims are also totally abandoned by the government of Nigeria. And you want to talk about oppression? Christians are the most oppressed people group in the world. And that's according to reports, statistics. It's not black people. It's statistically Christian people across the world are the most oppressed people in the world. That's why I don't fall into the narrative of the whole critical race theory thing, because I'm like, there's Christian brothers and sisters out there who's living in countries like Nigeria, living in these countries where the government just don't they don't even care. They don't care. But you know what they'll play on their local news? They'll play George Floyd. And they'll sit back and they'll say, well, look at what's happening over there in America, how police brutality, they're just rounding up black people and just killing them all over the place. I've had people from other countries basically just hit me up and be like, man, I just hate to hear that, black men like you are just being rounded up and murdered on a daily basis. And I'm like, that's not what's happening in America. But I'm just like, in your country, Nigeria, I'm hearing about thousands of people being killed. And they're just like, yeah, I've kind of heard about that too, but, and it's just like, this is what's, I mean, news like this doesn't go out. And you wonder why. You wonder why. Why isn't this stuff like this being on every news headline across the world? An estimated 300 churches have been threatened, attacked, closed, or destroyed this year, with at least 10 priests or pastors abducted or killed, the report said. Former U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says the situation warrants serious action. Armed radical Islamic groups arrived in a village during the night, killed the men, raped and murdered the women, and kidnapped the children. Pompeo, who now serves as senior counsel for the global affairs of the American Center for Law and Justice, wrote in an online analysis. Now, Mike Pompeo, I think that he was up under Trump's administration. How come this wasn't something that could have been done then? So that's why I'm like, when it comes to politics and, people who want to be uber conservative or liberal or whatever, here's a man that, under Trump and the Trump administration probably could have had something, could have got something going to aid these people. They could have set up a program where they've allowed these people to be able to come to America, to be able to escape, what do they call it? Religious persecution. That's one of the ways that you can leave your country and come to America without going through all of the paperwork and all of that stuff, is if you're under religious persecution. But we didn't hear about this. Let Your Will Be Done says, God bless all the Muslims in the world. Even if I was to die by their hand, God bless them. A radical love and forgiveness, unsearchable, only God and His Son can truly understand. Take heart, brothers. Amen. We'll go ahead and finish reading this. This is the last little bit of this. The Nigerian government thus far has sought to downplay the attacks. Now listen to this. Listen to this. The Nigerian government thus far has sought to downplay the attacks, characterizing them as conflicts between herders and farmers rather than as religiously motivated acts of terror. These terrorists must be held accountable for such preposterous characterizations. Preposterous characterizations. And given that Nigeria, y'all know I'm slow, and given that Nigeria has the largest Christian population of any African country, okay? Nigeria has the largest Christian population of any African country. I'm not even going to get into the whole Israelite thing, but I think that, because there's some studies that I've done, that Nigeria had a pretty big Christian population before the transatlantic slave trade. There was a lot of Christians over there. I think back in the 1500s, it was a pretty decent sized religious population before the transatlantic slave trade popped off. And given that Nigeria has the largest Christian population of any African country, over 80 million, nearly half of its people, it is essential that this persecution is snuffed out before it becomes even worse. Yeah. Yeah, these are some of the things that's going on in the world. And that's why I'm like, people hear my stance on CRT and they see that I go hard when I'm addressing certain issues, like the Hebrew Israelite movement and stuff like that. And it's not because I just want to just bang on people and just have something negative to say, but it's like, no, these are things that are happening in the world that no one's paying attention to. If these are our Christian brothers and sisters, how come we're not talking about this stuff? How come we rather talk about George Floyd, who wasn't a Christian, who was in the act of committing a crime? Not saying that he deserved to die for what he was doing. Two wrongs don't make a right. But why us as Christians, we're holding George Floyd and we're esteeming him and putting him on his pedestal when we got Christians over in places like Nigeria that's being slaughtered, killed, women, children being raped, kidnapped? How come we're not talking about this? How come we're not putting our money together here in America and trying to help fight for those brothers and sisters there? We're trying to run to the government about racial reconciliation when we could be putting our voices together to say, hey, listen, let's do something about these Christian brothers and sisters that are across the world right now, that are actually dying for their faith. Not dying because they're committing crimes and some cop is, going above and beyond and killing them, which happens look at the numbers. 3,000, let me share this again. 3,462 Christians. Let me try that again. I don't know why that's blinking like that. Yeah, 3,462 Christians. How many black people have been killed by the police so far this year? Has it been 3,462 Christians? Because that's the number of Christians that's been killed since July 23rd, 2021. 7 months in, over 3,000 Christians have been killed. 3,500 was killed in 2020. But we're talking about George Floyd, Breonna Taylor. Oh, yeah.